for a little clarification on like family and just so that I can understand where you draw the line of family as a value and family as a priority. Because if you have family as a value, but maybe it begins to shift as family's a priority when you get someone that becomes ill or something, I'm kind of struggling with, you know, when we speak of family, of what is it that makes the family a value and what is it that makes it important, because maybe it is you feeling that you need to be the caretaker or helper fix. How do you see the difference of it being a value, that it's something that you want to do, or it's actually maybe really coming from the Mr. Dutiful side that your family is? Where is the...
Wouldn't it be looking into your heart as far as what your choice is? Are you moving towards joy? I mean, there's always going to be responsibilities, things that we have to take care of. But,
Right.
but also, it's good if we can align those things. You know, sometimes our families may be expecting things of us that don't bring us joy. And again, at that point, that's when we have to look inside of our heart and say, am I doing this from a place of joy? Am I doing this because I love doing it, because I resonate with this? Or do I need to speak up for what I need here? Is there something I'm not saying for what I need in my life? And I suppose there's probably going to be some times where we're going to sell out because we're still human beings. And maybe we could,
You suppose? Hello?
well, you know, the ideal here is to live from our truth and to live from our heart and to speak our truth and ask for what we need. But I don't know about you, but I'm not always doing that in my life yet. But if we hold that as our goal and our ideal.
And one thing I want to clarify about what Ramona said, joy, it doesn't mean that what we're doing is necessarily joyful. One of the founders of CTI, Karen Kimsey House, talks about how she looked after her mother for the last maybe 3 or 4 months, I think that was the time period of her life, as she was dying. And she said it wasn't a happy time, but it was a very meaningful resonance kind of time. So I don't want anyone to think that whatever our choice is, our value, it has to be happy. You know, a lot of times picking your value can be hard, like being a parent, whatever else, but that somehow we know it's what makes us who we are. Family is important to me, and through thick or thin, I'm going to be with my mother in the last 3 months of her life or whatever.
But also moving through those challenges, I mean, can bring us joy because we recognize our strength, our depth,
Yes.
our courage in walking through them.
Yeah, I just don't want people to think joy is
That.
when you're a magic thing.
Always bliss.
Yeah, joy, yeah, that's bliss. Okay, joy can be different. So
I appreciate the experience, right? We talked about this monumentous moment in our life when everything was working and we were alive and everything was just, you know, we felt powerful. We felt that everything in our life was just beautiful. You know, we felt in our essence, we felt we were authentic. That's our peak experience. And, you know, we have this today, you know, and maybe we'll go along a couple more weeks and we won't have it. We talked about the saboteur.
that's an ideal story, actually. The peak experience is an ideal story.
We talked about the saboteur. We talked about how that can get in the way to keep us from doing the ideal story. We can look at the story that we're creating today. We've mentioned this a couple of times about what is our story today. Is it working the way we want it to work? Are there things getting in our way? The saboteur gets in the way, the fear gets in the way. But we've also brought up the idea that our thoughts, this guy up here, do you realize that your thoughts actually come from, Jill Bolte Taylor wrote recently that the thoughts in your mind actually come from a part of your brain that's the size of a pea. Hence pea brain, right? That's what's running our lives a lot of the time, is this little tiny part in our head that's running these same thoughts over and over and over. We have 64,000 thoughts a day. And the scary part is that those 64,000 thoughts are often the same ones. Today, tomorrow, the day after that. We keep running the same thoughts over and over and over. So that's the story we're creating for today, right?
The same tape.
The same tape. It's on a loop. Okay, this is who I am, this is where I'm going, this is what I can't do, this is, it's what we're doing to ourselves. So that's our current story. But our thoughts, we've demonstrated how our thoughts can actually create emotions. When she was being my mind and berating me about, my insufficiencies, my inadequacies, that was creating my emotions. If I create the story all the time that's telling me that I'm not good enough, I'm not strong enough, I'm not smart enough, I don't have enough money, whatever the scenario is, this is what's, building up on me and creating my story. And I can choose to live that if I want. Our thoughts create our emotions, create our actions, create our realities. They do. And we can choose every single moment what we want to think. We can choose to step over here and say, I'm beautiful. I'm talented. I can create my life. I can choose, I can look around and say, oh wow, I like this value. This really resonates with me. This is important in my life. I love this value. I want to have magic in my life. I want to have communication. We can choose all of these things. That's our power. That's our creativity. So we can choose our values, what we love, what's in our heart, and we can recreate the story. Every time the saboteur comes up and tells me that I'm too fat, or I'm not smart enough, or I don't have enough money, I can go, okay, there's negative Nancy again, and let it go. And say, what's my next best thought? Where can I go from here?
If you followed Eckhart Tolle on Oprah every Monday night, it's being in the now. And so often our pain body, as he calls it, or our unhappiness, is because we're thinking back, oh, I should have done that, should have done this, or being in tomorrow, not being in the now. And so many of the wisdom traditions, like the Buddhists, talk about being in the now, the breath. That's what you've got is here. And that's my big thing as a cancer survivor, is that yes, I plan for tomorrow, but all I've got is now. That's all we have. And there's so much pain when we're not here in the moment, I started doing some of that Eckhart Tolle stuff, and I started just noticing things more and going out to the tree and looking at a tree and just seeing it kind of breathe. And it didn't quite wink at me, but I was more aware of it than when I was thinking about what I was going to make for dinner or what I didn't do last week that I wish that I'd done. Well, when my child was scared, I had to be the adult and parent myself the way I wasn't getting it from anyone else. And I had to, yes, be very loving and kind and supportive of that little person who was very scared and frightened and needed to be loved. And then when I did that, so that's sort of like the first stage. Then you can go out, but you've got to support your core before you. Yeah.
Thanks.
But again, and Kathy brought this up again too, about being in the moment. I think it's really important that we realize, and a lot of you have mentioned this also, about being present in the moment. And it's good to plan for tomorrow. It's good to think about what we need to do, the whole bit. But it's about how we are this moment. Are we showing up 100%? Are we speaking our truth? Are we being authentic? Are we resonating with who we really are and our values? This moment. And if we take care of this moment, then the next moment takes care. All we have to do is take care of this one little moment right here.
Yeah, I when I was younger, I was brought up in a family where there was a lot of fear, a lot of alcohol, and that sort of thing. And I lived in a lot of fear for a long time. I got a very good therapist, and now I don't walk around with that fear. There's certain situations, if I'm in like if I'm somewhere where there's a lot of people drinking and people are sort of getting out of hand, then I get into that place again. But I don't walk around with that, and oh my God, when I was in my 20s, I would have given my head to anyone just so I could stop the chatter going on here. It was awful, it was painful. And it's just so different to be here in the now. And yes, of course, I still go back and I still go forward, but it's so much quieter. It's like I'm not listening to rock and roll anymore. I'm now listening to classical music, and only when I want to turn it on and off. So I just can't advocate enough for being in the now and getting rid of that noise.
I love this thing.